All right, guys, this is the May 2023 newsletter podcast. I'm going to be honest, I already uh, uploaded the newsletter to my Google Drive, so unless I catch some major errors here, we're going to have to deal with some whatever typos I find. I usually try to record the newsletter first because when I read it out loud, I catch my own typos. But I've already done all the work, so if I catch some small typos, we're going to be okay. All right, so this is the May 2023 article. The first article is titled, Please read the newsletter whenever you can. Yay for reading the newsletter. You're doing one of the most important things you can do for your child's musical education. The newsletter has information about upcoming events, songs your child will be learning, and very important studio information, and it answers a lot of questions that you might have about, well, everything. If reading the newsletter is a lot, you can always listen to the YouTube podcasts. Those have all the same information as the written newsletter, plus my funny side comments and maybe funny commentary from me. This past month, I've been answering a lot of questions about information that has been covered in the newsletter. And while I never mind answering questions, it is much less stressful for you, especially when you have all the information ahead of time, especially when it comes to upcoming events and studio policies. A lot of this has to do with Junior Festival. I really don't mind answering questions, but people were asking stuff like, "What date is Junior Festival on?" And don't feel bad if this was you. A lot of people did, or I wouldn't have taken the time to write a whole article on it. Like, what day is Junior Festival? Um, what address is it? How many kids are gonna play in each group? How long is it gonna take? What time slots are there? Just stuff that was already covered in the newsletter. And like I said, I really don't mind answering questions, but some people seemed really stressed. And I feel like it's empowering to know that you have the information. You guys have the information. If you need to ask me, that's okay. But it doesn't need to be scary where you're, asking me a bunch of questions and you feel like I haven't given you good information. I haven't given you enough information. So I don't know how to make that more clear in this article. But like I said, I don't mind answering questions. I just feel like people were kind of stressed. Anyway, one thing that might be happening in some families is that only one parent is reading the newsletter, and perhaps this is not the parent watching lessons or the one interacting with me, or maybe the parents take turns running point on piano. If both parents are involved in piano, it would be fantastic if they both read the newsletter, though I know that isn't always possible. I completely understand that some families are dealing with huge issues, so I totally understand if you don't read or listen to the newsletter. Don't stress or be hard on yourself. Just do your best to read or listen to it so that you are prepared for events, fully understand studio policies, and learn more about music. Please tell me if there's anything I can do that will make you more likely to read the newsletter more consistently, like a different font size, more pictures, shorter articles, reminding you to read it in your child's assignment notes, important articles being in a different color, sending the newsletter on a specific day, perhaps right before your child's lesson like it used to be. While I'm willing to make some changes, one important thing that families can do is make a routine involving the newsletter. Some families report that they like to read it during their child's lesson. Another mom said she likes to read it with a cup of tea before bed. Whatever your routine might be, just know that reading the newsletter is probably the number one thing you can do for your child's musical education. Yay, you. Yeah, you. I know it seems weird that the newsletter is the number one thing, but if you're not reading the newsletter and you don't really know what's going on, um, even studio wise, but also music wise, and also all the information that's in there, you're not likely to become more engaged. Whereas if you're reading the newsletter, even if you're not doing anything else, something in it might strike you to be more engaged with practice or more engaged with listening, and you're more likely to use that as like a building point. All right, the next article is called Dear Ms. Lauren, a real letter I plan on really sending to my former vocal teacher. Dear Ms. Lauren, thank you so much for being my voice teacher. I know I was not a great or even good student, but I really enjoyed my time with you. I appreciated that you treated me like a human being. This is something I make sure to do with all of my students. It meant a lot that I was able to come to you with my teenage issues. They may have seemed silly to you, but they meant everything to me. By getting them off my chest whenever I was on my lesson, early in the lesson, I was able to focus better later in the lesson. This past Saturday, I did a Spartan race. On my way home, my phone died, and the charging port in the car blew a fuse. With a 5-hour drive and no radio, and also a blown fuse, and no music on my phone, what did I do? I sang. I sang everything we ever did together and more. Songs from my Phantom of the Opera phase at age 10, songs from my punk rock phase in my teens, and songs that just came out recently. And to my surprise, the time flew by. Even exhausted, driving kept me awake and focused on my drive. I'm sorry I never practiced the warm up exercises you prescribed. I often now feel the same frustration when my students refuse to do their twinkles and scales. I realize now that I could have been so much better had I done what you had been telling me to do. I appreciate that you were patient but firm about the importance of those exercises. Because you drilled them into me during lessons, even though I hadn't practiced them as a teen, when I sang in the car Saturday, I was able to remember them. And yes, I did them. I now understand how strengthening the voice is so important, even if the exercises feel repetitive and easy. With piano, my parents were extremely involved. With voice, they were not. They never watched a lesson. They only vaguely reminded me to practice and never sat and practiced with me. This is not to blame them. They were busy with so much else at that point in their lives, but I do wonder how different my experience would have been if they had enforced practice. Even though I loved singing, I didn't practice. Somewhere between wanting to practice and actually sitting down and doing it, I got lost. I didn't even learn to practice piano spontaneously until the second half of my senior year in high school. Well, I wish I had practiced more, and then I would have progressed more. I really do appreciate the things I learned during my lessons, and I am grateful for the experience. I'm sorry I was always after you to sing pop songs. I now realize how important it was that I follow the curriculum and not skip around learning random things. I do appreciate the song you let me learn, the 3 Days Grace song I transcribed myself, but as you saw, I didn't practice more, and even when we were working on a song I had picked, so you quickly switched me back to the curriculum. Well, I thought that my barrier to practice was not liking my songs enough. It was really much more complicated. And working with you on the songs you chose during lessons ensured that at least I was getting quality singing time in once a week. Thank you for ensuring that I progressed as a singer, even if it was very slowly. Thank you for allowing me to participate in events like the senior recital, even though I wasn't as close to a strong singer as the other singing students were. You let me sing in the senior recital. I really enjoyed singing in front of a group, and I had fun showing off what I had learned. You never acted like I was less because I was a beginner. As a teacher, I see things the same way. It is commendable to learn a skill as an older teen, and every beginner has value in recitals. Participating in events has tremendous value, though I was really very nervous. It was an event I still look fondly back on after 16 years. While I do wish I had worked harder in practice and had been able to make more progress, I am forever grateful for the things I did learn and the experiences I was able to have when I was your student. Thank you. Laura. What resonated with you with this letter? How do you think your child will look back on their piano experiences? And all of that is true. I was not a good singing student. I did not practice. I did not practice my warm up exercises, especially. I do wish that I had done things differently. But that's kind of the perspective you have as an adult, right? You realize that you could have done more with the opportunities you had. Um, but there also was a tremendous value in what I did do. Even though I didn't practice, I still learned a lot. I learned a ton about the voice in general. And I did become a better singer. Not a great singer, but a better singer. All right, Junior Festival. I'm so excited for Junior Festival this year. It's always a fantastic time. I have many fond memories of participating as a child myself. Everything you need to know about the day was in your confirmation letter, which was already sent out. If you did not receive yours or had trouble opening it, for example, I've noticed that the emails with the school or work extensions often can't open Google Docs. I think, and I'm not sure because I'm not a computer tech person, I think some schools and workplaces don't let you open Google Docs. Um, but anyway, please don't guess what the information says. I know it tells you your time on the link. Don't just go with that. Please let me know so that I can find another way to get you your festival information. I don't want to discourage anyone from reading their letter by including any information in the newsletter or take up space. If you have any questions about Junior Festival, check your letter. And if you have questions or concerns not answered, feel free to ask me. The one thing I did want to cover, since most people have paid, I forgot to put it in the letter, but if you have not paid, you will not receive your score. I let people pay late other years. I'm going to be more strict about it this year. You can bring the money on Saturday. If you do bring cash, please label it. Or I would prefer PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, or Venmo. There's always 5 or 6 people that hand me like a wad of cash at festival, and I'm not going to remember who you are at the end of festival. And then I'm just going to have a pile of cash and I'm not going to know who paid and who didn't pay. So if you do have to bring cash, I understand. Just make sure you label it with your child's name or your name or really anything. Anyway, a huge pat on the back to all the families that signed up for Junior Festival. It's a really important event. All right, more thoughts on events. Well, I ran an article on the importance of events last month. I think one, not many people read the newsletter last month, and two, I thought of more I wanted to say. So here we go with round 2. All right. So I hope this doesn't sound too ranty, and if it does, please tell me, and I'll tone it down in the future. But it was something I needed to say. I think I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Anyway, 4 mandatory events. Firstly, remember that last year I made a fancy event table that discusses the yearly events held in the studio as well as their importance. And then I have the link for it. If you don't have it, um, look at the print newsletter and click the link, or you can ask me and I can send you the link. There are 4 events I ask families to consider mandatory. Obviously, they're not really mandatory, but just think of it in your head as being mandatory. They are free, equally spaced studio recitals in November, March, and July, as well as Junior Festival in May, which does cost money. While I know that Saturdays in May can be busy, Junior Festival also offers makeup days for any students who are unable to attend the actual date for any reason. In addition, there are many optional events. I know we have a lot. I think for some people it's overwhelming, but for some people it's exciting. So I'm going to keep it, for now, I'm going to keep it the way it is with the optional events. I do encourage families to participate in if they're able. I find especially value in the summer's end competition because it motivates students to start the school year strong. And while there are trophies, everyone likes trophies. And the Western New York Suzuki Festival because it's a great way for families. There's parent talks and stuff like that to it. It's just a great way for families to be involved and learn about a variety of different music topics. Also, trophies. However, the 4 main events are the ones I ask families to focus hard on. Please remember there are only 4 of these events the whole school year. Think about how many games your child has or how many rehearsals or performances they have for theater or marching band. When you remember how much time you put into sports and other activities, 4 events doesn't really seem like a lot, does it? Why events are important. A list. They remind you and your child of all the things you have accomplished when you listen to the beginners. They remind you and your child everything that they have yet to learn when you hear the advanced students. They allow your child to work on polishing a piece, and this gives them time to focus on things we might otherwise not spend a lot of time on, like phrasing, dynamics, musicality. Recitals teach your child how to work hard on a project, and then they take pride in showing off their piece and all their hard work. Recitals offer a way to get support from other adults in their lives. For students to get support from other adults in their lives, such as when you invite family members to the recital, show a video to family or friends, or post a video on Facebook and read your child all the positive comments. It's a chance for kids to know that they have a support network outside of their parent or parents. Just that they have people that are out there rooting for them and supporting them, and that has a lot of value. Recitals offer you and your child a way to meet and make new piano friends. They give you and your child a chance to work through a scary but safe situation. Almost all students have some type of stage fright, whether they're afraid of performing in front of people or being up on a stage. Most kids have some level of fear for that. By performing and seeing that nothing bad happens, they're learning to work through their fears. We work through our fears by being in situations that scare us and realizing that nothing bad is going to happen. And performing is a great way to get that in a safe situation. Performing often gives children confidence and strength and makes them feel brave afterwards. Okay, why events are important to a story. One reason for attending events is to keep you and your child motivated. I know how difficult it is to attend events, but overall it is often worth it because your child will be motivated to practice more for several lessons or even months afterwards. Another reason is to show your child how important their music education is and interests are to your family. With so many games and other activities, it is easy for piano to take a back seat, and it doesn't go unnoticed. It makes me sad to watch a student go from being excited to learn piano to, over time, unengaged in the learning process because they no longer feel they have the support of their family. And they often can't voice that's what happened because they're children and they might not even realize that. They just suddenly are less, not suddenly, they are just slowly over time less and less engaged in learning. I had a family once who went from attending every recital and many of the special events to not even attending studio recitals. They didn't know why their sons were uninterested in piano anymore. While there were obviously other factors, when I discussed with them the events aspect, they said they'd only missed a few events, checking records that had been over a year since they attended a recital. They did end up becoming more engaged and enjoying piano again more. How you treat recitals matter too. Another mom said her daughter would rather go to a softball game than a recital. That's a tough choice, I said. I can understand not wanting to let your team down. Then the girl interrupted, much to the mother's chagrin. That's not it. My mom always takes me to ice cream after my games, and after piano, she does nothing. The mom was really surprised, and she didn't, first of all, she didn't know that the daughter was going to say that, and it was just one of those kind of embarrassing moments where you hadn't really talked it out enough with your kid, and your kid says something that kind of embarrasses you. She did not know her daughter was going to announce that to me. And she didn't know that that was her daughter's reasoning either. She genuinely thought she really wanted to go to the softball game because she liked softball better. And later she actually said, I like piano better than softball anyway. And then, yeah, she ended up like saying how she didn't really like softball at all and she just wanted ice cream. But anyway, it was a whole thing. Um, Anyway, finding something fun as a family to do after the recital is important, whether it's eating ice cream, seeing a movie, or going out to eat. One family allows the child who performs to pick what the family does after, such as mini golf, the arcade, etc. Start your own fun family recital tradition after Junior Festival this Saturday. If money is an issue, there are plenty of free or low cost ways to make your child feel special, like making cupcakes at home, allowing them to pick a family movie to watch, or having them pick what board game to play, or having a PJ party. There's a lot of ways. If you need help thinking of ways, just ask me. I could make a whole article just on that. Maybe I will. Anyway, just remember, attending events is an important part of piano. They help keep students and parents, there's a typo there, motivated by reminding them what they can learn and what they have already accomplished. Make it a priority in your family to attend the 4 mandatory events, the 3 recitals and Junior Festival, and any other events you can, and you will see the benefits. What do you notice after your child performs? What do you think the benefits are? Did I miss anything on my list? I'm sure I did. Feel free to share your thoughts. All right, next article is office hours. I have tried having office hours before. They did not work then, but I would like to try them again. I will be holding office hours this Friday, May 5th from 5:30 to 8 p.m. You can sign on, have your child run through their festival songs, ask questions about festival, or have your child practice their full festival performance. Please text me for the Zoom information. I don't post it here because if nobody texts me and asks for it, I'm not really going to sign on to Zoom for imaginary office hours. I'm going to be working on Junior Festival stuff instead. Um, so that's why I don't just post the Zoom. Otherwise, I'd have to man the Zoom the whole time. And then if one person asks for it and they say they're going to be on it around 5:30, I will be on at 5:30, but then I'll know, I don't have to wait around after. Anyway, that's why I didn't post it. It'll give me a heads up on how many people to expect. You can stay on for a couple minutes or even longer and get a mini lesson. If these office hours go well, I may offer them again in the future. This trial time of office hours will be just for students participating in Junior Festival. If you can't make the office hours this Friday, but you think it sounds like a good idea, let me know. If your child isn't doing Junior Festival and you like the idea of office hours, also let me know. I tried them 2 years ago when I was away for a few weeks in a row, and I tried having office hours so people could sign on and have their kids play stuff. I don't know, maybe it was a busy time of year, maybe people weren't reading the newsletter, but nobody signed on, and I thought, okay, this was a waste of, I didn't make any plans that day because I didn't organize, I said people could sign on last minute. So I was like, well, this was kind of a waste of time, but I think they're a good idea. So if you guys think it's a good idea, let me know whether you can make it this time or not. All right, next article. Types of mistakes at recitals. Ooh, that has a typo. I wrote recital. Anyway, that's a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes at recitals, even professional pianists. The important thing is not whether you make a mistake at a recital or event, but how you keep going. Parents are often surprised at the mistakes their child makes during a recital, saying, but they played it fine at home. Trust me, mistakes are totally normal. While everyone makes mistakes, there are several different kinds of mistakes, and some are more preventable than others. The first kind of mistake is note or finger slips. Note slips happen to everyone. This type of mistake happens to everyone when performing. Please remind your child it is not a big deal and they should not stress about it. This type of mistake even happens to professional pianists. It can happen when the brain and fingers don't work well together for just an instant, or if the piano is a little different from the piano you're used to, or if something catches your attention while you're performing, even for a millisecond. So that kind of mistake is like where your finger just slips and plays a wrong note. Tips for minimizing note and finger slips: very slow practice leading up to the event with the metronome if you're in book 2 and up. Practicing on several different pianos leading up to the performance can be helpful as well. So that's why if your child is in book 2 and up, you'll notice I had some very slow metronome just once a day for this week. These kind of things are really going to help. So make sure that your child actually does them. They're very painful, boring. Let's see, I'm trying to think of a nicer way to say that. They're a lot of work, and your child might not want to do them. but it's just for a few days leading up to an event, and it helps prevent. It doesn't completely prevent, because like I said, these happen to everyone. It helps prevent note and finger slips. Memory slips. Memory slips occur when you don't remember what comes next in a piece. This can be caused from distractions, such as noise in the performance hall, or from poor memorization. Memory slips don't happen as often to Suzuki students, since Suzuki students learn by rote from the very beginning, and they're less likely to struggle with memorizing, even after they learn to sight read and learn pieces through sight reading. This being said, it still can happen to anyone, especially during times of stress. Tips to minimize memory slips: practice the piece incredibly slowly. Same thing. I was just talking about this, yeah. When you do this, you're using a different part of your memory. This is a part that makes it harder to forget how a piece goes, even during times of stress. If you learn a piece using sight reading and not rote from the beginning, make sure you're using the music only about half the time. Use the music to check what you're doing. Using the music is important sometimes to check for mistakes and double check dynamics, but using it all the time can cause a false sense of security in your memory. You can think, oh, I'm not peeking at it, but you're actually looking at something, some cue, like maybe a note. And then when you put the music away, you suddenly can't play your song. Next type of mistake is missing notes or not pedaling hard enough. These types of mistakes can occur when you're playing on a piano that's vastly different to the piano you have at home. You might miss a note because it doesn't press down all the way if you're not used to having stiff keys, or even hit the wrong keys repeatedly if you have a keyboard and you aren't used to the key size of a piano. Students who use the pedal might also struggle to push it down all the way or to pedal properly. Tips to minimize piano related mistakes: practice on as many different pianos as you can prior to the performance. Ask friends and family if you can play on their piano. Write a note to your child's music teacher asking if they can play at school. Try the piano at your church or anywhere else you might see a piano. Forgetting dynamics, changing tempo, or using the wrong rhythm. Forgetting dynamics and playing a song way too fast are the most common mistakes that occur at recitals. When students are nervous, dynamics are often the first thing a student forgets. This is one reason why judges are so interested in whether a child plays with dynamics. Not only does it show a firm grasp of musicality, it also shows that the child knows their piece well enough to play with dynamics under pressure. Students also play far too quickly when they're nervous. If your heart is beating faster, it's tempting to just do everything faster. Students occasionally change their rhythm when they're nervous or unsure, and have done things in the past like held the last note for 10 beats instead of 2, skipped rests, or even changed their song into jazz during a performance. It really happened. Tips for minimizing these types of mistakes. For the dynamics, practice a lot with dynamics and talk about dynamics with your child ahead of time. Practice performing ahead of time and review with your child what dynamics they did well and which need work. For the tempo and rhythm, practice performing under pressure ahead of time so your child is used to practicing performing at the correct tempo, even when nervous. Even if you just have family signed on to YouTube and your child practices in front of them, or family signed on to FaceTime or Zoom, and your child performs in front of them, or YouTube, making a YouTube video, anything that can put some pressure on your child, and then make sure they can still play their song with the correct dynamics and rhythm. What to do when a mistake is made. Ahead of time, remind your child they have 3 options whenever they make a mistake. The first option is the best for performances: just keep going. Even if it's a big mistake, like playing a long series of wrong notes or missing an entire part of left hand, it's better to just keep going as if nothing happened. The audience likely won't notice, and while it's stressful for your child at the time, it's definitely not a big deal. If your child can't keep going, they can restart from earlier in the piece. This is one very small reason why I have students practice some pieces in sections. There's a lot of reasons to do that, and that's like a very small, like a fraction of a reason why, but it is important to be able to start earlier in the piece. If your child can't start from a section, they may start the entire piece over. While this is not the best choice, it is still not a big deal, and it will happen to everyone during their piano career at least once, probably. It has definitely happened to me, for sure. I have seen students pull off fantastic performances after starting over, taking a deep breath, and trying again. Make sure your child knows that even if they have to start over, it's not a big deal, and they can still have a successful performance. Lastly, don't forget that everyone, from beginners to professional pianists, make mistakes while performing. It's important for your child to know that no matter what they do, when they make a mistake, it's okay and happens to everyone. That's the biggest deal I see, and maybe I should have written more about this, but like a student will make one mistake and they'll be so mad at themselves or so upset that then they'll make 10 or 11 more mistakes they didn't need to make. The best thing you can do is just tell your child it's no big deal to make a mistake over and over and over and over and over again, so that when they do make a mistake, they're not stressed and they cap it at one mistake. They make one mistake, they move on, they're not stressed about it, they're not mad, they don't keep making mistakes over and over. Definitely should have put that in the article. Oh well, you guys get bonus content. June, July studio recitals. I'm still working on the dates for the June, July studio recitals with the recording studio. There will be 2 options, and you will choose one option. One of the two options will be in June, and the other option will be in July. Students will come in small half-hour groups similar to Junior Festival, perform one piece, and have it professionally recorded. It's an incredible opportunity and really fun for the students. The recording studio is in Clarence, New York. As soon as the dates are available, I will let everyone know. Remember, the June-July studio recital is one of the very important events for the year, and you wouldn't want to have miss the opportunity to have your child have a piece recorded in a real recording studio. All right, focus on a book one piece. Go tell Aunt Rhody right hand. This is the last right hand one. We're going to start left hands and hands together stuff next month. All right, this piece will teach your child another way to move their hand into a new position while playing and how to move it back. It is 4. I meant to write 3. Okay, there's several typos here. It's actually 3 stars to play properly, in my opinion. Average time it will take to learn if you practice with your child, 2 months. 2 to 4 months of proper practice to play properly. Go tell Aunt Rhody will teach your child to move their hand for the middle of the song and how to move it back for the ending. The beginning and ending, the first and third line, your hand is in the position it's usually in. It's called C position. But for the middle line, you need to move your whole hand up one note to the right. It's a very big step in your child's learning to learn to do this, and it does take some practice to get used to. Work on even, careful rhythm. Listen to the CD and YouTube video while you are learning it. Make quiet endings. Make the second middle soft, the first middle is loud. The ending is often difficult for students with regards to controlling their fingers. It just needs extra practice. It goes D, C, D, E, C. Or if finger numbers are easier, think of 2, 1, 2, 3, 1. It just needs extra practice of just that part usually. Focus on a book 2 piece, Minuet 3. Reminder, read this section if your child is in book 2 or in middle end of book 1, and maybe save it if your child is near the beginning of book 1. Primary purpose of the piece. This is one of the last pieces in book 2. It is also one of the easier pieces in the book, so it's a great time for your child to practice sight reading by working on it more independently, especially if they're older. This piece there's just a time to work on a bunch of little things before tackling the next piece, the last really hard piece in book 3. It is 3 out of 5 stars to learn. It is about 120 to 130 for the quarter note. Actually, I think it's lower. I looked it up. I think it's 109, and I never changed this article. My bad. Okay. So it takes about 3 to 4 months to get to the performance level with proper practice. The grace note measure is played as if it is an eighth note, and it comes before the left-hand note. It's very light. For all the groups of eighth notes, it is very important to play them evenly and carefully. Students especially struggle with measures 8 and 12 on left hand and measure 29 on right hand. This piece has 2 spots where left hand has 2 voices. So this is a new tricky kind of concept. In measure 25 and 26 and in measure 29, these measures are played as if you have 2 left hands. For example, in measure 25, you're playing a rest on your imaginary first left hand and half note on B with your imaginary second left hand. Then your first left hand plays a D and second left hand plays B. This style was very common for composers of this era and allowed composers to do things they normally wouldn't have been able to do. However, it's kind of difficult for students to understand, and it might require a little extra work. It's pretty weird. That's my professional commentary on it. Pretty weird. The rhythm in measure 16 is very difficult. It's natural to want to hold the bottom note, not the top note. To fix this up, have your child practice measures 13 through 17 with the metronome extra. It is also tempting to hold the last note of the piece. Make sure you only hold the last note for one beat. It should be soft. Phrasing in this piece is very important. Please encourage your child to listen to what they are playing and make a beautiful sound, as well as working on getting stronger as you move higher on the piano and softer as you move lower. The ending on right hand is very difficult. Please practice just the last line of right hand alone with the metronome until it's smooth. Juliet's Senior Recital. Juliet's Senior Recital will be May 20th, 2023 at 2 p.m. at Christian Central Academy, 39 Academy Street, Williamsville. I strongly advise all students to attend. I think hearing Juliet's story and hearing her play could be... I've had her senior recital speech planned out since like last year because I know what I'm going to say. Hopefully I don't mess it up now that I'm just saying that. No, Juliet is amazing, and I don't want to sound cliched or corny here, but she has taught me so much. She taught me what it meant to be a teacher, which is to learn from your students. Guys, I promise it won't be that corny there, but honestly, she's a fantastic kid, a fantastic pianist, and she has a super inspiring backstory. Anyway, her recital will be about 30 minutes. There will be refreshments and brief audience games. I'm trying to plan some cool things there. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. I know some people have told me that they're attending. That's great. She's really excited. She's been working hard. The May project is Juliet's recital. The optional project for this month is in regards to Juliet's senior recital. Students will watch the recital either live or a recording of it and answer questions about their experience. Right now, I have not written the questions at all because I am far too busy preparing for Junior Festival. However, as soon as Festival is over, I will add questions to the link below. So the link is there. You can click on it. It says like 2 things. I was started to work on it, and then I'm like, I am pushing myself way too hard. I need to focus on getting ready for Junior Festival, and I will write the questions later. Anyway, the project is due by the end of the month. Students who complete this project may receive a small prize. Students who complete it and turn it in. I feel like sometimes people complete this stuff and then never tell me. And then I, A, never know that anyone's actually doing it. And B, I don't know to give them a prize. Not that that's the important part. More the first thing I said. It's nice to know if people are actually doing it. All right. Practicing in ADHD. Tips that apply to everyone. People with ADHD, like me, often struggle with a sustained attention, like the type of attention required for a good piano practice. However, activities that require sustained attention, such as piano, can be advantageous when done in a non-stressful way, or I mean a minimally stressful way. I don't think anything is not completely non-stressful. Anywho, additionally, successful practices over time will only make practicing easier in the future, though not necessarily linearly as progress, as anything especially involving neurodivergent folks, is rarely linear. In this article, we are going to specifically discuss practice strategies for children with ADHD. However, these strategies would probably help anyone. These types of articles that I've had in like the last couple newsletters, they have value, I think, to most people, whether they apply, whether your child has PDA or ADHD. The next one's going to be anxiety. I think they have value to everyone, whether they apply and label to your family or not. Even if all of them don't apply. Say you read the list and 1 out of the 7 things really resonates with you and that helps you make a change in how you practice, that's worth it to read the article. If even if all of them don't apply. Anyway, number 1, make sure that you are involving them as an active participant in their practice. That's like keeping them engaged is really important. Before they play, ask them what they want to work on. Like, do you want to focus on making this left hand soft or slow or both things? After they play, you ask, how do you think you did? How did you feel about that one? Do you think you played quietly? Definitely consider playing a game with them during practice. Games allow your child to take a quick brain break between repetitions and can allow them to focus better over longer periods of time without burning out. Games that use a different skill, different sensory organ, or a different part of the brain than they are using for practice tend to be best. For example, a gross motor game like Obstacle Course, Simon Says, playing catch with a small ball, or a game involving vision, I Spy, Memory, or Scavenger Hunt, if they're not sight reading. I didn't put that caveat there. Or if they're not working on memorizing a piece for piano, a type of memory game. Like card games, Legos, and puzzles are also great. If you aren't in the mood for a game, even allowing them to take a quick run as a break is fine. Just say something like, run to the fridge and back, and then we'll play this left hand. Just give them some kind of break. It will keep them more engaged, and it will make things easier for you. Even if they are young, find a way to begin prepping them for organizing and practicing on their own. Try writing out their assignment on a whiteboard, and every time they play a piece, they get to wipe it off. Or you can make a checklist that they can check off every day. These kinds of techniques will help your child later in life, not just for piano, but for other things as well. So because people with ADHD have a harder time organizing and playing and practicing piano on their own, you need to start prepping them for doing that younger than you would prep a neurotypical child. Though it is fine to prep your neurotypical child early to practice on their own too. It is not fine to have your neurotypical or your neurodivergent child practice on their own before they are ready. I went on a side story here, but for most children, that is 12 or between 12 and 14 years of age when they're ready to practice on their own. But you can definitely prepare a child to practice on their own early. You just can't let them do it. You're just not developmentally or physically ready to do it at a young age, no matter how much prep they have. Anyway, back to this article. Number 4, be really happy with small progress. If you are new to practicing, be happy if your child plays one thing from their assignment. Then, after a week or so of good 1-item practices, have them work on 2 things from their assignment. After a week of that, try for 3 things. Celebrate what your child can do instead of constantly pushing them to do more. And always let them rest for a week or more before adding new things from their new items from their assignment. If your child is completely tuned out, take a break. For me, I know the more that I tuned out, the harder it got for me to pay attention when I needed or wanted to pay attention. I'd have, at least when I was in elementary and maybe middle school too, I'd have entire days where I just couldn't pay attention. Um, and the more I tried, the harder it got almost. And if I had had someone just say to me, okay, let's take a break and we'll try again in an hour, go play or go run around, I think I might have been able to come back from it. Though who knows? If your child is unable to focus, don't continue the practice. Instead, take a break and come back fresh later. If this isn't possible, skip practice for the day and try to listen to the CD extra. Practicing when you're tuned out can lead to a lot of bad habits. Trust me, I've been there. Because I'd be trying to play when I literally couldn't think about piano. I'd be thinking about other things. I'd do really weird rhythm. I'd do really weird fingering. I'd start putting my wrist in a really weird place. I would be slouching. I would do all kinds of really strange stuff. So if you see your kid doing that, they're not able to focus. Just stop. Try again later. Let them run around or whatever refocuses them. I know it's not necessarily movement. I think people think that people with ADHD, if they move, that helps them refocus. And that's true for a lot of people, but not for everyone. Anyway, number 6, people with ADHD focus better at different times of the day, though actually scientifically it's not totally clear why this is. Does your child focus better in the morning, right after school, evening? For me, I focused better at different times in my life during different periods of my life. In elementary school, I focused best in the morning and would often get up at 4 or 5 a.m. to get in a good practice before I lost my focus. I bet those of you who know me really well now don't believe that, but it's totally true. As I grew older, I eventually focused best in the evening and began practicing then. Try practicing at different times if you can and see what works best for your child. Number 7, ask your child what helps them the most. Do they think certain games help them focus, practicing a specific way? Neurodivergent people can struggle with introspection, so asking these kind of questions can help you find answers and can help your child think about these things and strengthen their ability to introspect. Lastly, if a child has ADHD, there is a greater likelihood that the parent has ADHD. If you have ADHD, whether you've been diagnosed or you just might suspect that you just might, find things that work for you when you're practicing with your child. This might be a totally separate article in the future. I even wrote it in there. It's definitely going to be a separate article in the future, but not for a few months because I already have the next few months planned out. Anyway, this might include you rewriting the assignment in a way that's easier for you to follow, such as using a checklist for yourself, having something to do with your hands while you practice with your child, such as knitting or a fidget toy, putting reminders on your phone to remind you when to practice with a child, taking breaks for you to move your body too. I could totally imagine having a dance off or physical challenge being fun, super fun breaks for both you and your child. Having another adult, whether it's your co-parent, a parent, your parent, or even a fellow piano mom to check in with you and see how your piano practice week is going. What works for your child? What doesn't work? Do you have any tips and pointers to share? Next month is going to be anxiety in piano lessons. If you have specific tips or pointers about this topic, feel free to share them, whether it's you that has anxiety or your child, or you just have some tips you think would work well. All right, schedule a reminder. Please check the schedule below. I'm not going to read the dates, but it's in the newsletter if you need it. It's also pinned to the top of the Facebook, and also by now everybody should have it on their phone or calendar. If you don't, check Facebook, check this newsletter. Upcoming events is Junior Festival, May 6th, Juliet's Senior Recital, May 20th. Congratulations to all the students who participated in the Florence Price competition. We had a large number of winners. They will be listed in the next newsletter. Same thing with the project for Juliet. I have a tremendous amount of work to do this week to get ready for festival, and I just didn't have the time to make a list of all the kids from the studio that had won the Florence Price competition. We had a lot of winners. People did really well. Kids worked really hard on it. So that'll be in the newsletter next month. Anyway, I'm really excited about Junior Festival. I hope this newsletter wasn't too ranty about special events. Let me know if you feel it was, and about reading the newsletter. But you guys should all feel good because you just listened to the whole thing. So you've just done the best thing you can do for your child, piano-wise, for this month. Anyway, hope you guys have a good month.